welcome. If you're new here, welcome. Hold on a second. We're gonna put on some music. Okay. So what's going on, guys? My name is Alder Murray. I am a Unity developer, and today we're gonna be doing some Unity development. Specifically, I should say like right here, we are doing terrain generation. This is followed after I have finished and completed a graphical engine. So I've completed that, and my next step is to then build the terrain around this graphics engine. And we're going to be talking and doing a little bit of that today. So I'm going to put, this is all in C#, so we're going to add that in. C# only. Okay. So that's going to sit up there. And then I'm just going to change it a little bit in the title just to spruce things up a bit. And then after that, we're just going to get right into it. So let me jump right in here. Okay. So, we're in 3ds Max right now to talk about models and a little bit of the fundamentals of models and what a model is and how it is we're going to take a model from not this, but we're gonna generate our own using mathematics, and how we're gonna do that and make it something that we could even import into this program, 3ds Max. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. As well as these 3 other things over here. So we're gonna be talking about a little bit of everything. So a little bit of what I've been doing, just kind of describe further, is I'm a VR developer as well, and I've been looking for functioning terrains to kind of carry my games. Obviously, you know, environments are very important to games, as it turns out. I know, but what I'm trying to say is that by taking, you know, generated terrain and then making that, you know, good enough to use with the player, you know, usually takes a lot of actual going in there and sculpting. Like, you know, what Bethesda did with Skyrim is they generated the whole Skyrim, like they generated the entire map, and then they went in and they sculpted it and they resculpted it and they kept working it and working it and working it, and they started with this big, you know, randomly generated terrain, but eventually they got very small and very exact. So, you know, it took a long time, but, you know, it happened. So, essentially, you know, that's what it took, and, you know, that's great. But we're not able to do, we don't have the tools with us acquired to be able to use, to learn, and to use those kind of tools to generate our own map. So we're going to have to actually go in and build our own, and that's what we're doing today. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about models first. Before we talk about any of this other stuff, I'm just going to talk about some models, and we're going to pause the music right now. Because it's a little important that I have a clear, precise voice, and I want my VOD not to be muted as well. That would be a problem. But I was kind of just putting on the music there just to, you know, chill myself out and get ready to stream. But you know, if we come in here, you know, I'll just, you know, I'll make like a box, and we'll say, you know, that's fine. So we have this, oh gosh, I haven't used 3ds Max for a little bit. I'm gonna have to relearn the controls really quick. So which one is this? Orbit? Is it Alt? Because middle click is drag. Middle click plus Alt is orbit. Okay, so you're looking at a square right now, and right now this is just a, you know, an object. It's just an object, standard primitive object, and you know that by looking up here. and where it says standard primitive, and you have all these options. And then you have this down here, which is the object type, and it obviously has a lot of objects that you can presets that you can use. So if we look at this object right here, and then we convert that to an editable poly, and then we click on the element button, which is this one all the way over to the right, and we take a look at this object, you'll see that there's some like red highlighted squares now. Like the square has a red box. It is red, but it also has red lines going around the box. So what this is telling you is these are the polygons. These faces are the polygons. And essentially with every square, or every rectangle I should say, you have the ability to cut the polygon into triangles, and those triangles are the true polygons. But you know, obviously two triangles make a square, so you can still have a square polygon, if you will. So that's how much we know right now. We know that this is. And I'm going to put on some music in a little bit. I just realized how quiet it is, and I hate talking or listening to my own voice. So, with these polygons, these are the things that are going to create what are called draw calls when you put a texture on it. And a draw call is essentially when you have, I guess, like textured information, material information on a polygon of any kind that creates a draw call. And a draw call is just when a player looks at a location and they see a material. And those are the things that are most going to impact the performance of a game, most likely, is draw calls. So, it's very important that we have, a minimal amount of polygons. So I'm going to put on some music really quick. We're going to jump over here. Just going to shoot right here. Excuse me. But anyways, with these polygons and these draw calls, okay, that's good. I'll turn it down a little bit more. So with these polygons and draw calls, essentially, if we wanted to generate them, we're going to have to go in there and program the fundamentals of these draw calls. Like, we're going to have to figure out exactly what a draw call is and how it is we're going to use those draw calls to capture a scene. And to do that, to generate these draw calls in a specific way, we have to, when you're building a model with polygons, what you do, if I wanted to make this square some other object, is like, it's hard to think of what object I'd want to do. Maybe, I could take tessellate. I could do that a few times. I could hit these. I could intrude this inwards, or extrude it inwards, I should say. And then we can pop this out. And there we go. Now we have a fireplace, if you will. So, like, the reason that this looks like a fireplace is because there's polygons in order, like in a specific order, that is creating the illusion or the look of a fireplace. So this could be, if I put this in a place that would make sense where a fireplace would be, then it would tell the brain of the player specifically, yes, this is a fireplace. And they would go to the fireplace and, they might look inside it or something, maybe try to observe it a little bit. It might draw attention if you use the right materials. So, that's just one example, right? But we're talking about big environments, big natural environments. How is it that we get those captured down to the very minimal, details? So the way that I would go about it, and that's just me, just kidding, it's not just me, but there are these things called fractals, okay? And fractals are these naturally occurring mathematical kind of principles. And I guess I can pull up a quick video of a fractal. We'll wait for this ad to end, but essentially these fractals, what they do is they create mathematical patterns, and like they don't look a lot like mathematical patterns, but you know they certainly, you know, have this very intense, like intense line, sorry, and like they certainly have this very crazy look to them, you know. They're just zooming in forever. But if you look, what's really happening here, right? So we have an image, and this image seems to be very high detail. In fact, it seems to be so high detail that I could potentially just keep zooming in. So that's kind of the image that we're looking at. A very, very high detailed image that just keeps zooming in. So let's just keep watching it for a second. So if you keep watching it, it just keeps going. It goes towards the center, it just keeps going. The things that are towards the bottom just keep getting more and more detailed. So to think about it in such a way, that would make sense is that, you know, this actually isn't an infinite amount of detail. It's because to think of infinites is actually quite difficult. I'm going to pause this or turn it down really quick. So to think of infinites is actually a waste of time, because an infinite in itself is almost paradoxical to us. To think of the infinite is to think of something that is unmeasurable, and we think in measurements. So to think of something that is unmeasurable in measurements is to contradict ourselves. So what is actually happening here is not something that is unmeasurable. This is actually very measurable, and there was probably mathematics used to create it. But what's true about this image is this. This is a very high resolution picture. That's what this is. It's just, you know, it's a video, so there's multiple frames. There's several frames of the picture getting closer, bigger, but every time it's a very high resolution photo. So it's just keeping the same resolution of a photo, and it's zooming in. So the artist or whoever had to go in, or the programmer had to go in and make sure that the detail of this photo would stay the same resolution no matter where you're looking at it from. So to do something like that, you need one, a renderer, okay, and two, the ability to generate that terrain for the renderer to see. So I already have my renderer. Good luck with your own. I'm just kidding. I might put that out on sale at some point on the market, because we're going to be doing fractals and terrain generation. I think it's going to be a great tool. So, you know, next, you know, we're talking about fractals right now, and we'll just keep putting on this video because why not, and we'll blast some music because why not. So, you know, like with this kind of terrain generation and like fractals that we're going to be doing, you know, it's very important that we think of this in a way that would allow us to fairly comprehend it easily. You know, we want to be able to think of this in a way that would be very, you know, very concise, and so we can very easily understand and very easily recreate our own work. And so what I'm going to recommend that we do, yeah, that's good. What I'm going to recommend that we do is look into the mathematics of fractals. So if everybody wants to go on Google and look up mathematics of fractals, that's what I'm going to do. I haven't done it before, so we're going to be doing this at the same time. Mathematics of fractals. So, okay, I have seen a little bit of this actually. Funny enough, I know a little bit about octrees, and octrees are very similar to this. So, I believe what this is, yeah. So, there's a reason why this is like this. I've seen this on Numberphile before, but this is essentially like, this is actually like a mathematical principle that causes this to happen, and it's actually kind of it's like a random principle. Like it creates random numbers, but the sum of those numbers create this pattern that you're seeing right here. So let's go to this website. What are fractals? A fractal is a never-ending pattern. Fractals are indefinitely complex patterns that are self-similar across different scales. They are created by repeating a simple process over and over in an ongoing feedback loop. driven by recursion. Fractals are images of dynamic systems. A picture of chaos, geometrically, they exist in between our familiar dimensions. Fractals patterns are extremely familiar since nature is full of fractals, as a fact. For instance, trees, rivers, coastlines, mountains, clouds, seashells, hurricanes, etc. Abstract fractals, such as Mandelbrot set, can be generated by computer calculating a simple equation over and over. And then they have some pages here. And they let you play with some fractals. So it has Adobe Flash. It's not good. So I don't have it. Okay. For a simple description of fractals, please download our 1 page. For more detailed info, please download our 20 page. So let's go with the detailed one. Because we want the nitty-gritty, we want the mathematics, but we'll also do the simple one. Although, I think I already kind of understand it to an extent. So, we're kind of loading this. Okay. So let's kind of check this out. We'll bring that over. And down. Okay. So these are the kind of simplistic fractals that we're going to be dealing with, realistically. You know, we don't really need super complex fractals because we're going to be working in the properties, changing the fractals, because we're going to need fractals that match the properties that we need, not ones that are already defined. And the more simpler ones are easier to change and get better results, if that makes sense. Which is true of a lot of things in mathematics. But yeah. So we're gonna read over this a little bit, and I'm just gonna read. And if you want to pull this up along and like read with me, that's fine. Or you want to read off stream, that's cool too. But I'm just gonna read it. That's what I'm gonna be talking about for a little bit. Right now we're talking about, just to double check, we're talking about fractals. Next we're going to be talking about the math of fractals. Then we're going to be starting the concepts. So let's change the song really quick. Let's see if this loads. Yeah, that's fine. So, natural fractals including branching patterns like trees, rivers, networks, lightning bolts, blood vessels, etc., and spiral patterns like seashells, hurricanes, and galaxies. So we're going to talk about these images really quick. I'm going to put on this music. Okay. So what we're looking at in these images, like right here, is a tree, right? And as you see, the tree has a base, and the base grows up, and then branches grow off the base, or towards the top of the base more. But it grows a little bit off the bottom of the base. So you can think of it, there's a better likelihood of it growing off the top of the base than the lower half of the base, and that's what keeps the tree stable. But then, we're going to turn this down a little bit. We're going to turn down my sound just a little bit. Okay. Then, you know, let's turn it up a little bit more. Oh, that's not it. Okay. So you can think of this tree then having branches branch off of those branches. I know that's crazy to think about, but it uses the same exact probability that it would grow from the bottom to the top, so it will grow more on the top as it uses on its branches that it uses on its base, and then it keeps going, etc., etc. So that's true of just trees. Then hurricanes. I'm a little confused about hurricanes, but I know this is the Fibonacci sequence, and the Fibonacci sequence essentially is a spiral that curves in on itself in an exponential way. And that's true of galaxies, and then this is obviously a lightning bolt, and this is when it hits the ground. That's the pattern that it creates, and it's similar to trees. Mathematical fractals, alright, these are the ones that we're kind of be talking about a little bit more. but we're going to be using the natural properties of recurring fractals as well, because we need a little bit of that to make sure that our objects, again, match the scene that we're going for, match the, the proper scene. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right category. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So essentially, mathematical fractals, like the Mandelbrot set, are formed by calculating a simple equation thousands of times, feeding the answer back to the start. These fractals are indefinitely complex, meaning we can zoom in forever. Okay, so these are indefinite fractals, so you can keep zooming in. So these are less natural and actually aren't the ones that we will be needing. We will be needing the math for these fractals. We will be looking at the math, but we're actually going to be using more of the naturally occurring fractal mathematics of how trees and such grow, because that is important. We need those for terrain generation. A tree grows by repetitive branching. Yes, so this is what we just talked about. Repetitive branching is formed by a simple equation. Indefinite Mandelbrot set is formed by repeating tremendously simple calculations. Oh, so it's the simple that gives you complex answers. It's the complex that gives you simple. A very, simplistic idea that has very complex results. Simplicity leads to complexity. A fractal tells the story of a process that created it. Interesting. So we're going to be looking at a simple repetition. Alright, so it is a simple repetition. Alright, Fractal Pack 1, Educator's Guide. And this is Fractals Are Smart Science, Math and Art, fractalfoundation.org. So we're going to be looking through this a little bit. Where do we find fractals? In nature, in geometry, in algebra. So all these things is where you can find fractals. That's how complex fractals are. So natural fractals, branching. I'm going to make sure. Hold on a second. Okay. So natural fractals, branching. Branching is what I just talked about with the trees. And like I said, I think we're going to find something very similar to what I just said, the probabilities and whatnot. Fractals are found all over nature, spanning a huge range of scales. We find the same patterns again and again, from tiny branching over blood vessels, range of scales. We find a blood branching of blood vessels and neurons to branching of trees, lightning bolts, and river networks. Regardless of the scales, these patterns are all formed by repeating a simple branching process. A fractal is a picture that tells us the story of the process that created it. I'm sorry I'm having so much trouble talking. But anyways, we see this pattern just everywhere. The branching pattern where it has probabilities. Scales is what they describe it as. But yeah, this is the probability, the mathematics for the probability. So we're actually going to borrow some of this math. And I'm just going to jump in Notepad. And we're going to do terrain generation maths. And we can borrow this. This is fine. We can just copy that, because this is math. So we want some of these, and we're just gonna borrow the ones that we need. So I like these right here, and I'm gonna take the neuron one as well. Borrow that, and I'm gonna borrow this. And we're going to figure out what these exactly mean. So, scale equals 30 30, is that meters? Millimeters? Yeah, it would be 30 meters equals 3 to the times 101 meters. Okay. So you can tell, like, as it gets smaller, you use a smaller measurement, so it equals 30 meters. The scale equals 30 meters, and that's the mathematics that goes into it. That's the actual proportion. And then as it gets smaller, this number actually gets smaller as well. But it, so obviously we're gonna put this in order then. Yeah, give me that one. And then we can pop this down. So that's fine. So obviously it gets, as it gets smaller, as the exponent gets smaller, it gets exponentially smaller as well. So it's a pretty simple process. Natural fractals, spirals. So spirals are more of this Fibonacci stuff I was talking about. The spirals is another extremely common fractal in nature, found over a huge range of scales. Biologically, spirals are found in the plant and animal kingdoms, and living spirals are found in the turbulent swirling of fluids in the patterns of star formation in galaxies. All fractals are formed by simple repetition, and combining expansion and rotation is enough to generate the ubiquitous spiral. So these are all kind of generated by what's called the Fibonacci sequence, and we're going to look up that Fibonacci sequence. I don't know if I'm spelling it right. Oh, here we go. Okay. So it's like the special triangle or whatever. I like this one. Okay, so there's all these good maths on this page now. So this is like one that good one I'm imagining. We'll just take that one. And then we'll say naturally occurring fractals. Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so this one's actually a lot. I understand this a lot more. So it's Fibonacci, and that's essentially equivalence of n minus 2. So that's the number of variable minus 2 equals Fibonacci number. The original number minus the Fibonacci number minus 1. So this is going to grow if we add an exponent to it, because it's only subtracting 1 even though it's being multiplied by 2. And that's what makes it a growing pattern, or that's what makes you see patterns. I mean, you would see a pattern, but it just wouldn't be a fractal-esque pattern, I guess you could say. So we're going to jump back. That's fine. Geometric fractals, and this one's pretty important too, so we're going to continue to talk about that. The Sierpinski triangle is made by removing the middle of a triangle, and I remember this. So we can kind of watch this video, number file, fractals, and we're going to watch this video and kind of talk about it. And I think it is triangle. Let's just do triangle. The chaos game. Here it is. So we're gonna watch this. We're gonna talk about it. We're just gonna see. Yeah.
3 dots. They could be anywhere. I said I was going to put them in a triangle. That's kind of difficult to avoid. This is not particularly meant to be an equilateral triangle. Let's call this A, B, and C.
We're just going to zoom in a little bit.
I'm going to put a starting point just randomly on the paper. And all we're going to do is roll this lovely dice. Dice? Who cares? To decide which point to go towards. And we're going to, whatever point we choose, we're going to go halfway. So let's call A 1 or 2. If we get a 1 or a 2, we'll go halfway towards A. And this is going to be 3 or 4. And C can be 5 or 6. And so I just rolled 2, so I need to go halfway to the point that has been chosen at random, which is A in this case. So we could measure this. For the sake of speed, I'm just going to go roughly halfway. I think you can believe that. If we're on a line there, we're going to go put a dot there. And we're going to keep doing this for a while. We're iterating, so we're repeating. We get the last result and work from that. But the start point could be anywhere. I could have put the start point outside the triangle, and I could still head towards one of these dots. Let's just see what happens when I keep rolling the dice. I've just rolled a 2 again, so that was the dot I had before, and I've gone halfway from the previous dot, and that's my halfway point. So if I roll this one again, 1. I wish I'd rigged this now. From this dot, the last dot I had, halfway towards the 1, so we're just aiming towards 1. This is unlikely to keep going, but well, I don't know, place your bets now. 4. 4 is the B dot, so I've got to kind of from the previous dot, halfway on this line is about there, and I've jumped a long way this time. 1, back towards A, so we're going in there. And I'm going to just keep doing this, so you've got the idea, I think, now. From the previous dot, we go towards one of these. 2. Your dice is rigged, Brady. 6. Excellent, we've gone all the way. This was the dot, kind of halfway is there.
Interesting.
1. Back up here.
So what he's doing is he's
2.
rolling this dice. He's going in a completely straight
I'm
line,
going to do this a lot now,
depending
but maybe this would be worth speeding up.
on the dice roll. But a straight line can be anywhere across the triangle. It doesn't necessarily have to do what it's doing.
But it's not that exciting, but interesting things are happening. We've created kind of some lines, but basically I've just made a bunch of dots on the paper. It's possible that something interesting would happen if I could do this quick enough that I wouldn't get so bored that I have to stop. But maybe we want a computer to do this. We have a problem with a computer though and random numbers, like generating random numbers.
This is interesting. This is also
difficult when a
important.
computer
This
has
is
to do what it's
important.
told. But let's park that issue for another video, perhaps.
We're
If
gonna
I
have
could
to
get a
watch that
computer to
video
roll the
too
dice
at
for
some
me
point.
and put the dot on, then we could see what happens quickly. And let's do that. The screen has, just as we had, we've got 3 dots. They're not even in a nice equilateral triangle. They can be anywhere. This thing says trace point. It's just going to trace where that goes. And the computer is, with its magic, going to choose A, B, or C and move that point halfway accurately this time. So you can see that it's leaving a mark anywhere it goes.
So now he's having a program do it on the computer.
Jump to B, and then back to A, and then
It's going to do a lot more than he was able to
I mean,
do.
Doing a running commentary on this for any
do
longer
something
than I
real
have
quick.
done is probably not going to make anyone's day. So let's speed it up. Go a little bit faster, and you begin to see.
Watch this, watch
similar to the
this,
step right
watch
now. The
this.
outlines get defined quite well, but I'm just going to speed up a little bit more because the outcome of this, I genuinely think, is slightly surprising, but also.
That's from a. His is from a
Wait,
completely
that structure
random
I'm seeing.
dice roll.
Right,
He's
imagine
using a
that.
dice to get completely
How is
random
it dodging
scenario.
those little weird patches in the middle? Why is it never going in those? They're definitely triangles now. And then I start to see a shape which actually, if you've done any sort of investigating bits of recreational maths, this is a familiar shape. It's full of triangles. It looks like that trace point, wherever it's going, which is definitely going randomly. I haven't rigged this. This is doing it differently every time I run it. But it's dodging those triangles and it's making a shape which I think everyone can see now. This is called the Sierpinski gasket. It turns up all over the place. And it's a fractal thing. You can see now, I think we've got enough to see that the big triangle has a black triangle in the middle and 3 copies of itself around the outside of that black bit. But then each copy of itself has a black bit in the middle and 3 copies around itself. And that's what a fractal is, this self-similar thing. You zoom in and you see a little copy of itself. But the fact this is genuinely coming from rolling a dice on a computer and doing it quickly
rolling random
makes me,
generation.
I don't know, just slightly disturbed about reality.
I would have thought every point had a chance of being filled at some stage, but there are lots of areas that will just never get touched.
Right, so, and you can rig it. So I said you could start anywhere, right? So I could start with my point right in the middle. And then we definitely have a point right in the middle, in that black. But what happens if you iterate it enough, it veers away from that. So the long-term behavior is what's interesting, is that even if you start in a black thing, the random going halfway moves you away from that black area. And you actually, the technical term for this shape is called an attractor.
An attractor.
Some people, you may have heard of these things called strange attractors in chaos theory. It's kind of advanced maths in the end, but this shape is the attraction. And it's also just pretty. The fact that random behavior produces something which is very structured, it is a nice outcome. Well, we had 3 points. I mean, we could have had 4, we could have 5, we could pick a number. Well, probably a whole number, otherwise counting the points is difficult. We could have 4 points and say, well, let's roll a dice or a 4-sided dice, a d4 to go to one of those. What pattern would you get? You could say, instead of going halfway, go a third of the way or 3/4 of the way. What will happen? Do any of them make patterns? Do they go chaotic? People have spent a long time fiddling with the rules. It's nice to find out for yourself, but there's one rule I'll show you which does something which nobody really expected. So I'm not going to go into details. This is worth looking up, but I've got a red shape and a blue shape, and they're kind of just summarizing two possible outcomes of the rule. Like, we'll start with a point, and with some probability we go to one of the corners of the red triangle. But with a small probability, we'll flip over to the blue triangle. And every time you kind of roll a dice to see where to go, you follow this slightly more complicated set of rules, but they're just random. Like, you go here with a certain probability, and then you flip back to the red one with a certain probability.
So this is all about probabilities. What fractals are
this
about.
Particular rule,
right here.
You get this picture. After a while, you start to see these green dots appearing.
Oh,
in what looks
what's
like a very
this?
structured way. In fact, it becomes very obvious if you run it long enough.
Let's watch this. Look at this. I want everybody to stop and look at this. What have I been saying this whole time?
Real.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
This is called Barnsley's
This is a
fern.
leaf.
Compare it with a
If
real
you don't know,
fern.
this is a leaf.
It's surprisingly accurate.
Or a
This is a nice
fern.
example of how you
This
don't
is a leaf or a
something
fern.
natural by hand. All the information for this fern is captured
Fern,
in
right.
a
It's
few
a
lines
fern.
of probability. Like the rules of the game are the fern, or are a picture of a fern. It's actually really useful if you want to program video game
Okay, so we
graphics. You don't want to draw
yeah. That's it. That's us. That's us. All right.
actually really useful.
So we want this. We want the I don't know what this is called. It's we're gonna take that website really quick though. We're just gonna pull that. It's mathworld dot I can't read that. Let's try to get this to go away. It's not going away. Come on. Go away, please. Wow, I can't read that. That's disappointing. Oh, here we go. So it's mathworld wolfram.com/Barnsley's firm. Barnsley's firm is what it's called. Okay, so we want that. We want Barnsley's fern, and we want. Okay, so we're gonna continue to watch this though.
Useful if you want to program video game graphics. You don't want to draw every tree.
Right. That's
so
exactly
if you can
right.
just kind of store all
That's
the trees
exactly
and ferns as a rule and say whenever you want a fern, you just do that for a while. That is a much easier way to sort of and lots of natural things.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about.
Self-similar things, which means you can generate them by iterating stuff. Genuinely good graphics are coming from the fractal generated graphics rather than hand painted. To get the structure of a tree on repeat, if you just had one tree and you copied it, it becomes really obvious when you're running around the forest, like it's just a computer forest. But if it has this natural sort of variation with some randomness in it, you get much more realistic looking trees and ferns and things.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the video that I wanted to watch. So we're gonna check out these two articles next. So we're talking about strange attractors now. So we'll look at this first one. Actually, we'll look at this second one because this is from 1983. This is by Peter Grasberger and Itamar. I don't want to butcher this name too much. Procaccia, I believe, is the name. But abstract. A new measure of strange attractors is introduced, which offer a practical algorithm to determine their character from the time series of a single observable. A new measurement of strange attractors is introduced, which offers practical algorithm. So this guy's got an algorithm that talks about strange attractors, and if we're not sure what strange attractors are, he's going to talk about it probably a little bit too. So the relation of this new measure of fractal dimension and information theoretical entropy is discussed. So this is a little bit about chaos theory. I wonder if I can just jump to it, because it's probably in public domain now, I'd imagine. So yeah, let's pull up the PDF. Oh, I can't. Okay, that's fine. But we're just kind of collecting a little bit of information. So this one's from 1970. No, those might not be the dates. This one is from 1985. Abstract. We present first algorithms that allow the estimate of non-negative Lyapunov exponents from an experimental time series Lyapunov exponents, which provided qualitative and quantitative characterization of dynamic behavior are related to. Okay, so I kind of just want to look up what strange attractors are a little bit more. Attractor. In mathematics, the field of dynamic, and let's turn on some music right now. Let's turn down my music a little bit. Okay. There we go. In the mathematical field of dynamic systems, an attractor is a set of numerical values towards which a system tends to evolve. For a wide variety of starting conditions of the system's values that get close enough to the attractor, values remain close enough, even if slightly disturbed. Okay. I think I understand that a little bit. So this is it. This is what we're looking at. It's a more complex, it's kind of like the triangles that we were looking at, but more complex rules is what he was trying to describe it as. And it's important to what we're doing, as to use a sequence like this can be very useful if we're trying to create non-natural looking geometry, so like roads or something, maybe potentially like cracks in roads specifically. So cracks in roads and paths, maybe something of that nature, because like if it's a natural walking path, like people might walk in kind of random ways that aren't exactly measurable as we would call randomness in the same way. So that's that. So let's lift, not lift, but let's use kind of let's go to the strange one. Strange. So strange attractor, and this is the one that we want. Okay. So now we're going to the Barnsley firm. Barnsley firm is a fractal named after British mathematician Michael Barnsley, who first described it in his book Fractals Everywhere. He made it resemble black smooth. So Fractals Everywhere might be an important book. It's by Michael Barnsley. Okay. History. The Fern is one of the basic examples of self-similar sets. Okay. So this is all important. So we might borrow this entire computer generation. Here we go. Okay, so essentially it uses a two-dimensional grid, and it just tells it, obviously follow this pattern. That's it. That's all this computer, but it just has the maths for it, and that's the important part. So obviously we're gonna want this table. Let's see if we can just copy and paste it on here. We can. Okay. Okay. So these are we're getting some good maths here. Let's go. Desktop. Okay. I'm just gonna save this really quick. Okay, so we want rich text then. That's fine. But yeah, we'll just keep this up for now. So by applying the coefficients, and let's turn down this music, or at least skip this song. By pulling the coefficients, it is possible to create mutant ferns varieties. In his paper on V variable fractals, Barnsley calls this trait a superfractal. One experimenter has come up with the table of coefficient to produce another remarkable natural-looking fern, however, resembles the cyclers or the theoretical fern. These are. Okay, let's hit those. Okay, so this is the same kind of stuff. So there's all these kinds of, interesting. Okay, so we're done with all that. Okay, so, you know, I've come to a really solid point. I feel like I've gathered really valuable information, and this is just, you know, obviously we're showing 3ds Max over here, but we can pull up this. We're going to talk about what we've just gathered. We're going to reassess what we just gathered, and we're going to start concepting. And through concepts, I'm going to use 3ds Max to do the full concepting and to do the full elaboration on what it is I'm trying to discuss. So, with this, we have naturally occurring fractals, Fibonacci sequence, strange attractors, and Barnsley fern. Barnsley's fern is going to be a very useful one. It's going to allow us to grow the shrubbery, the whole entire ground. It's going to give us very unique patterns that are going to allow us to have very unique, ferns, like in, grass and stuff like that. Just the ground that you're looking at to make sure that it's not, the same pattern over and over again. With the Fibonacci sequence, that's going to give us, like, this one right here is going to give us the more natural patterns. So we're going to get, the spirals. We're going to get, some good stuff, like, I don't know, like, good pictures maybe of maybe good terrain, good weather. But with naturally occurring fractals, obviously, those are the ones that are going to be our bread and meat. Those are the base of everything that we're doing. Those are going to be the most useful. We're just going to have to go in and really dig into what it is our environment's about, what it is we want our environment to be about, and like figure out from there what types of fractals we're going to need to use. And obviously strange attractor is one that is just going to be, that's going to be at the opposite end of our scale from, the most uniformed fractal to the least uniform fractal, and on the other end is strange attractor. So these all kind of meet on the other end of strange attractor towards the more, the common fractals. So yeah, let's jump in this. So a little bit of what I've been planning on doing. I've had this idea for this game, and I'll discuss it a little bit here, but essentially with my graphics engine, it allows for very specific case scenarios to work very well, I think, and one of those is driving. So driving would work very well with my graphical engine. So I want driving to be part of this game in some way. That's one point. So we need, how fractals are going to play into that is like the road. Like obviously the roads are going to be really important. So like the strange attractor would obviously be the most random because the cracks in the road, right, would be really random. And so we might have to make the road ourselves and then make the material, like I was talking about draw calls and materials before, make this material have the cracks in it, and we're going to randomly generate that material. So that's what we'll most likely be doing. As far as other things go, with trees, obviously those are naturally occurring fractals, and trees are going to be a really important part because I want this, I think, to be in a forest. So we want a road in a forest. You're driving through a road in a forest, and the mechanics aren't really important. It's more the terrain generation that's important. So you know, obviously we're gonna have that road probably randomly generated through the forest. Every level might be different, you know. So yeah. So to really get this concept going, I think I'm gonna have to look at a little bit of something maybe I've already done. We're just gonna pull up some stuff. So I'm just gonna pull up non-natural terrain right now. That's not what I wanted. So this is kind of just a room that I've made with a lot of these textures aren't mine, but I did create a few of them. So this is kind of gonna be what our graphics are gonna be looking like realistically, and I'm really into this kind of style. So this is gonna be the style of what we're gonna be looking for. Something along these lines. This is just a room that I made, but you can imagine if this was outdoors, you know, it'd be in similar graphic style. So that's as far as I can zoom in. But yeah, you can kind of see the detail that went into this level, although you can see there are small mistakes right over here. So that's like one of them. I guess I'll keep kind of digging some up. Another one. So we also got this one. This is just a stone wall that I made, a brick wall. But it has a lot of detail to it, so that's just another one. It's an 8K. It has 8K graphics. This is what you're looking at there. Before, that's why it wasn't showing up particularly well while I'm streaming. So we'll go to here. We'll come to here, and this is a Japanese house that I made. As you can see, I textured it and everything. And this wasn't long ago that I textured it, but or it was a little bit ago, I guess you could say. But yeah, I got the texture on it, and you know, it's just a specific look. It's kind of more cartoony though. For this one, I made a more serious version of this as well. But you can see how these kind of shoot off in direction, like they're going at an angle. That's not supposed to be. That's not like a representation of real life. The fact that these planks go, you know, this gets wider right here. So that's just another one. Then I'll show off some of my more natural terrain that I've done. So there's also Abaca building. So this is some building that I've done. This isn't it. Let's go to open. Yeah, we can go to Abaca Street. That's just the street. Go to open. Abaca. Here we go. So this is an entire kind of see what it is I did here. This is just a road, and I can kind of show off what it looks like. I have pictures. So this, what you're seeing right now, is just like a little road, but you know, we'll pull up my website. But as you can see, this is the same thing. I'll get from the same angle. Okay. Yeah, so that's the same thing that you're looking at right here. Although I should probably make this smaller if I can. Yeah, so like that's right there. So that's what it looks like with materials and textures on, normal maps, all that stuff. That's what that looks like right there. It's like right at that angle, I think. Or it's very similar to like right there. So yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. But you know, this kind of terrain. This is non-natural. All of this is non-natural terrain, and it's all not net generated. Generated terrain is going to give you the most natural-looking terrain by far, and this is non-natural terrain, and we're going to be able to work that in still, and we'll be continuing to do that on stream. Just a lot of stuff will be done on stream, and you guys will be able to watch. So, you know, I did this for about an hour. I've had a pretty good time this entire hour. I've been able to talk this entire time, and I'm happy. I'm happy. Sold, or not sold. That guy just yeah, all right, guys. If anybody's out there, if anybody's watching, if you're watching the VOD, thanks. Yeah, all right. I'll see you guys later. All right, peace. Thanks for tuning in.